So I often hear from the yoga teachers that I work with and those who come through my trainings that they're afraid to put themselves online and to teach online. They feel a little bit of imposter syndrome around what they're teaching and about showing up in that sort of space, and they don't even know where to get started. So they don't know what tech that they need, they don't know how to take payments online. All of those things just feel like too much, too hard, and I completely get that. I was definitely there myself when I started filming online classes about 7 years ago. So I wanted to talk to you today about how you can get over feeling like an imposter and why it is so good for your development as a yoga teacher to show up in an online space. So the first thing I want to say is you really just need to start. You need to stop looking for the perfect equipment, stop looking for the perfect setup, stop looking for the perfect lighting. Just grab your phone and start filming your self-teaching classes. And in the process of doing that, your videos are going to get better, your light quality is going to get better, your sound quality is going to get better. You will learn as you go. Please try not to put that bar there for yourself that it has to be perfect or it has to look like my videos or it has to look like another yoga teacher's videos who's are professionally filmed, who has been doing it for such a long time that they've just worked out how to do it. You don't have to make them perfect to start with. I have created another video which I'll leave linked below showing you my process. I don't think my videos are perfect. Certainly not in this space, in this house. We're currently in a rental. If you don't know the backstory, we're waiting for our brand new house to be built. It's taken a lot longer than expected. Don't build during a pandemic. And I'm gonna have a beautiful studio space once we get into that new house. In the meantime, I'm kind of just making do with what I have because I think it's important to keep creating, to keep putting it out there, and because I want to make yoga videos. I want to share my yoga teaching with my community, and I'm not prepared to put all that on hold for what would have been 2 years had I have waited for the perfect space. Going into the 3rd year now, still not knowing when that is going to happen. So please don't wait for it to be perfect, just start. And to prove that point to you, I thought we would take a look at one of my very first yoga videos that I filmed and uploaded here on YouTube. In fact, I don't even think it's actually the first one. I think I've deleted some of the very, very first ones. They were so bad. I know what we're gonna look at is going to be cringeworthy as well. I don't actually even remember which one it is. So let's have a look at that today. The very first one that's currently there was filmed 7 years ago. Yoga for Mums Baby Wearing. Wow. We've got the very standard.
Hi guys, Bettina here again.
Can you hear that sound? The static. I think I'm filming on my phone. I think I had it propped on a chair. And our house at the time was our house at the coast. It's really big and open and airy, which is beautiful for a house. Not so great for filming because it's just so super echoey. Like, I kind of admire the fact that I just got in and did it, but I just also now I look back and I just think like, you didn't smile. You didn't come even close enough to the camera that they could see your face to get started. I'm like just super far back, like I guess trying to be a little bit invisible. Even the alignment of like that the wall is at an angle because I haven't got my phone on a tripod. It's literally just sitting on a chair. You can't even see my feet properly. Like the framing is all wrong and it's like down low looking up, which anyone knows down low looking up makes you look like you're bigger than you are. Oh, we're so little. And I think this is why I haven't deleted this video because it's got my newborn in it and I just can't bring myself to delete footage that is just kind of really precious to me now. But anyway, you get the point. My first videos were absolute rubbish. So please don't let that put you off. And if you look at any of the big YouTubers now, anyone even in the yoga space, go back to their first videos, with the exception of maybe Yoga with Adriene, because hers were professionally created from the beginning. She had a filmmaker friend who made them. Most of our videos are rubbish at the start. Get going and your videos will get better from there. On that point, the process of filming yourself is really helpful in learning about how you present in a yoga space. So I know for me personally, the process of filming myself teaching a yoga class and then editing that yoga class week after week after week has really shown me how I present in that space, how I hold my body in that space, even like alignment in certain poses. I can self-correct myself in spaces that I wouldn't have even known about had I not have been seeing myself on video. And while yes, you will cringe at the start, like I've just cringed on that video, it is a really helpful practice in developing your own teaching, developing your own personality, and really seeing yourself like, oh, like I'm a bit boring, like I'm not giving enough in terms of like story. I think it's really important when you're teaching that you can bring your own personality in, tell some of your own story, bring in those lessons, bring in all of that stuff that takes you from an okay teacher and being able to soundly teach cues and soundly teach all of the things you need to know to physically do the practice safely, to a great teacher who's able to weave in story and personality and lessons and all of that good stuff. So that's why getting into an online space is so helpful for your development as a teacher, because you're physically watching yourself regularly. Hopefully you're editing them yourself so that you can learn from what you have done. And I don't think you get that same amount of development teaching in a studio class. Well, I think you should also be doing that. It's a different practice and a different way to take that self-study and learn from yourself and learn from what you are doing really well and maybe what you're doing not so well. I think you do need to bring that compassion into it. So bringing all those lessons of yoga that we like to teach on the mat, being really self-compassionate in this space and forgiving yourself for the rubbish videos and not letting that put you off. So not looking at that first cringe video and going, ugh, I'm terrible, I'm never doing it again. Being like, okay, this is where I'm at now, and from this video I can learn that my sound's not great, so I'm gonna look into getting a better microphone. Or I can look into, positioning's not great, the framing's not great, let's get a tripod. So really bringing some self-compassion into the space is really important, which is ironic as yoga teachers that we may not be able to do that, but I really want to encourage you, if you're feeling put off from teaching, get into the habit of doing it, learn from what you haven't done, and be really compassionate about the level that you're at now, and know that you don't have to be perfect straight away. Compassion for where you are to keep you growing and to keep just that growth mindset of like, I know I'm here now, but if I keep making little, like 1% changes each video, in a year's time, my videos are going to be unrecognizable. They're going to be so great from where I am now, but the only way to get there is to do it week after week and to learn each week as you go. So another thing I want to talk about is imposter syndrome. And I know some of my students who have worked with me in a coaching space talk about feeling like, I don't feel like I know enough. So they might have taken my pregnancy yoga teacher training or my fertility yoga teacher training, and they are just feeling like, I'm not an expert in this space. I don't know if I can put a fertility yoga class out or a pregnancy yoga class out. And what I want to say to that is, I don't think you need to feel like you know everything. I don't feel like I know everything in either of these spaces. And that's kind of how I approach it. I am still learning. I still have a dozen books on my bookshelf over there that I'm still reading and getting more knowledge from. And while the Bettina that started this 7 years ago didn't know as much as I know about the fertility space now, I think the Bettina of 7 years ago was sharing from a really authentic place. I was going through a fertility journey of my own. I was teaching what I learnt as I learnt it. And I know that my audience appreciates that. They've been with me on this journey rather than me coming from a place of, I know everything and I'm going to teach you what to do and don't do this and don't do that. And I know for me as a student, I hate being told it's black and white. These are the rules. You have to do this. I would rather have suggestions from someone who's learning with me than someone presenting themselves as the absolute expert. So I really want to encourage you to come with that student mindset, that beginner mindset that we talk about in a yoga class, and allow yourself to show up in that space, to not put on an ego front and to not try and be the expert, and just share from a place of where you are now. So if you are a brand new yoga teacher and you want to start creating yoga classes now, then do that. But talk to your community, talk to your audience about how this is the very first yoga class you've ever filmed. I think people relate to that and they like to be on the journey with you and they like to hear about the things you're learning. And now is a really great time to be filming yoga classes because you're so passionate about what you're learning. I remember when I first did my yoga teacher training and everything felt like, wow, did you know this? And I wanted to tell people about it. And an online space can be a really great place to do that, because it's not like just your family and friends who kind of have to listen to you but might not be interested. Often the people watching your videos have found you because they've searched for what you're putting out there. So don't let that put you off. I want to really encourage you to keep learning. So just like in your yoga practice where it's about self-study and continuous study and always being the student, do that in your approach to online work as well. Let yourself show up as a student. Let yourself follow what you're interested in and share that information with your audience. And don't feel like you have to know everything now. You absolutely don't. And it doesn't make you an imposter at all. If anything, I think it makes you truly genuine, and that is what people want to see. I also really want to encourage you to be yourself. I know for some new teachers, we put on a bit of a facade when we first start teaching. I've definitely tried to train myself out of doing this. You know, when you go from like this normal talking interaction space and then you go into the yoga teaching voice, which is like, close down your eyes, take a deep breath in, and a long, slow exhale out. And it's like you go into this monotone. And while there's an element of that in my teaching, like I do try and slow myself down, because in conversation, I naturally talk faster than what I want to talk in a yoga class. But I think it's important to not take on the persona of a yoga teacher, but show up as yourself to teach yoga. And I know I personally like that more, and I know if I go into a yoga class or I click on a video to do an online class, it irks me now when people go into that persona. You can tell when it's not them. You can tell when they're not injecting any personality into it, when they don't smile, when they don't seem to have any fun doing it. So while I know that's really hard to do at the start because the camera feels super awkward, you don't know how to like hold your body, it feels really strange. Again, this is why we get started, we get practicing, we get watching and editing and learning as we go. I really want to encourage you to like at the start, like just shake it off, take a few deep breaths, be like, okay, I'm just going to be me, and really try and look at the camera and just talk to the camera like you were talking to a friend, because at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to create a community of people on the other side of the screen who connect with you, and they don't connect when you're like trying to be super serious and put on that yoga teacher persona. That doesn't make you authentic. I think it's authentic to show both sides of your personality, to make dry or dirty jokes if that's your type of humor, to be a bit silly. If that's your persona, if that's who you are, bring that into your yoga teaching. You don't have to put on this persona of everything is calm and that's who you are all the time. That to me is a little bit fake. I'd rather see you show up as you. And I know that your audience connects with you better when you just show up as you, when you're willing to smile, when you're willing to stuff up and be like, whoops, completely did the wrong side. That's how people connect with you. They want to see you as a real person, not as this mythical yoga teacher who lives in a land of calm and zen and is always that way, because that's not reality. Nobody lives like that. I think it's also really important to stay connected to why. Like, why do you want to share yoga in an online space? For me, the space that I work in around fertility, around pregnancy, around motherhood, I went through all of these transitions feeling quite alone. And while I had a yoga community at that time, I didn't have anyone who was talking about how that fit into my life as a mother and how that fit into the space where I was trying to conceive and losing babies. And what I was looking for was information that came from a yoga perspective that spoke about trying to conceive and struggling, that spoke about being pregnant and preparing for birth, and that spoke about becoming a mum and then feeling like, who the hell am I now? And all the struggles that came with recovering in postpartum and dealing with the sleepless nights. And I couldn't find that. So my why is really based in, this is what I wanted. This is what I wish I knew when I had my first baby. And I had someone who could tell me that it's okay, that this is how it's going to change, that these are tools to help you when you're struggling. And so that's the place I share from. I want to help women who were in the same position as me with yoga tools to be able to enjoy motherhood and enjoy all of those stages along the way, not just be waiting for when they're this age, when they start sleeping through the night. And when I connect with that why before I film a video, my videos are 100 times better than when I'm thinking, I've got to film a yoga class for this. Because when I'm just thinking about me in that space and me filming the class and all the things I have to do to get that class out there, I don't connect with the people that I'm trying to create the class for. So if you're feeling like, oh, I don't know if I want to put classes online, that feels scary, that feels yuck, I don't want to watch myself on video, I want you to take a step back from that and think about why you want to do this in the first place. If you can connect with who you're trying to help or serve, I think that helps you to take a step from all the kind of fears that we have about ourselves, about not wanting to see what our body looks like on camera, about maybe feeling a little bit overweight, a bit self-conscious of our teeth or of our hair or whatever we've got going on, of the pimples on our face. It can help you to take a step back from that and really just connect with, oh, actually, it's just like showing up in a space, in a studio. And even then we can feel a bit of imposter syndrome when you first start teaching. Think back to when you first started teaching your first class. You probably felt like, oh, I don't think I'm qualified for this. I'm feeling a bit nervous. I'm worried I'm going to forget all the poses that I've planned. I'm going to forget my plan and not know what I'm going to do. But if in that space you were able to connect with, but actually, I think this is really important and I want to share this because I know how much yoga has helped me and I want to share it with others, that intention can really help you to push past all those fears and to challenge yourself to get into the teaching, which is the only thing that's going to help you get better and help you feel more confident in that space. The more you teach yoga, the less you worry about it. Now I can just turn on a camera and start talking, probably talking a little bit too much, and it feels comfortable. I don't feel any ickiness anymore because I've been doing this almost weekly for 7 years. It's really comfortable for me now. And when I look in the lens, I don't even really see a lens. I see my audience. I see my community. I see the women who send me emails and who say thank you. And that's who I'm trying to connect with. And then finally, you know how when you're teaching a yoga class, you're talking to your students about viewing their practice as exactly that, a practice. And then you're talking about how the practice teaches us about life off the mat. So all the things we learn about ourselves through being in a challenging pose and breathing through it and talking ourselves through it. And then we talk about how in life we can use those same skills to get us through. When we're in a difficult situation, we can breathe our way through it. I want you to use the same approach for the challenge that you're facing in your yoga teaching. So if you're feeling fearful about teaching an in-person class, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take a breath. You're going to use positive mindset and talk yourself through it. The same for an online class. If you're feeling afraid of all the things, approach it the same way you would study about your yoga practice. You just need to learn a little bit more. You need to give yourself that grace and that compassion that it doesn't have to be perfect and that you can start as a beginner. You don't have to know how to do the whole thing right now. You just have to know this little bit. And that just like on the mat in a yoga pose that feels uncomfortable at first, you can breathe into it, you can feel into it, you can let the process look different for you than it looks for me because our bodies are different, our lives are different, we're going to approach things differently. So please allow yourself to have that same growth mindset, that same compassionate approach that you do on your mat and in your actual yoga teaching, in the way that you approach your yoga teaching, and especially in the way that you approach teaching online. Just like when you go to a yoga studio and you always end up with your favorite yoga teachers, and your favorite yoga teachers are probably different to someone else's favorite yoga teachers, we all have different people that we can connect with because of the stories they tell, because of the way that they show up, and we're just naturally drawn to different people. You too have a really important perspective to share because only you can share it. And even if there are already 100 yoga teachers teaching online, 1,000, it doesn't matter. None of them are you, and none of them will show up in the same unique way that you show up. And I think it's really important to just let yourself be yourself and not try and be something that you're not. Let yourself approach teaching yoga online in the same way as you let yourself approach practicing yoga in those very beginning days when you didn't know what Trikonasana was, when you didn't know any Sanskrit. Let yourself approach it with that same genuine curiosity, that beginner's approach, that compassionate approach that you don't need to know everything right now, and just start, because there is a community out there waiting for you and they need what you have to share. So please get started. When you put your first video out there, I would love if you would share it with me. So you can either tag me on Instagram or you can send the link directly to my email. I'll have both of those links below for you. And if you would like to know more about teaching yoga online, or you would like to look into any of my yoga teaching courses, I'll have those links for you below as well. Namaste.